How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Envision Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Portillo, with my lovely co-host and wife, Lynn Portillo.
Hey, guys.
Bienvenidos a otro episodio. We're super excited to come back with another episode this week. We actually just got back from a family trip that we had in Mexico. We took Rhaegar, our son, to visit and meet his great-grandparents and his family from my mom's side. It was an incredible blessing. It was an amazing experience to see all my family again. We were just there almost a year and a half ago, I would say. Yeah, it's been about a year and a half since we were last there. The first time it was a shorter trip. That was Lynn's first time in Mexico, and this is her second trip. And it was just a blessing to see family and have Rhaegar there and have him meet his great-grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins from my mom's side of the family. My mom got to go as well, and it was a blessing with my sister. She was there. It was a good time all around. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. You know, we're a podcast that discusses communication and ways to strengthen, exploring different dynamics of relationships, and then giving helpful tips to help increase and help improve more fruitful relationships within your life. So we're going to talk lots of different communication today, including communicating in a different language, because I think that is something that Lynn is going to give us firsthand experience in, and I'm excited to hear about it. But before we get started, Lynn, how are you? How was your day? I want to hear about the trip home and all our adventures and experiences that we had to go through. And I'll put the ball in your court. Go for it.
Well, I'm a little tired from our trip. As much fun as it was, we had a long journey back home. We did fly with a little baby, 8-month-old, and it was very different than flying just in the States. He was younger then on his first flight.
He was 3 months on his first flight.
Yeah, and he just slept the whole time.
Yeah.
So this time he had to be entertained. He needed toys. He needed milk on the plane. It was a lot. So it was a fun trip in general, but the journeys to and from, a lot.
To there wasn't too bad. I will say he took an hour nap on you, and I think that really helped out. And then the last 2.5-ish, 45-minute hours, we had to definitely keep him entertained. And as the pilot announces over the intercom, says, hey, raise your tray tables, raise your seats, we're getting ready to start our landing process. I think we were both kind of ready to be out of the plane because of excitement and because we were just tired of being on the plane as well. But also because the last 30 minutes, I would say, is really where Rhaegar got the fussiest. He didn't want to sit anymore with us.
He's tired of being held. He's a very independent baby. He doesn't like to be held.
Yeah, he was tired of being held. He didn't want to spend time with us, I guess, in the sense of being in our arms.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to do his own thing. Lynn would leave him we'd place him on the airport chair. Can't think of
the seat.
Apparently I can't speak English today either. So we'd put him on the airplane seat. Thank you, on the seat, and have him turn around, and he'd be playing on the pillow a little bit, and then he'd turn around and play with us. And that lasted for a good while, but then it turned into just let me go, let me do my thing. I want to crawl, I want to explore, I want to say hi to everyone. And he got super fussy. So thankfully we landed when we did, because by the time we got out of the plane or we actually were able to stand up, he was in a much better mood.
Yeah, it was a good experience though for Alex, because he has not flown with Rhaegar. So this is his first time flying, and it was a good experience for us too as a couple.
Agreed.
Because there were some stressful moments and we had to support each other.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about those right now.
And not be grumpy with each other. So it was good learning lessons on what to do next time we need to travel.
Yeah, and I want to relate this now to what we spoke about last time, and creating kind of that safe space to have really good communication and just understanding each other's boundaries, moods, being able to read each other's body language, if you will. Lynn knows that I enjoy traveling. I think since we've been together, you enjoy traveling a little bit more now, but it's always a process at the beginning. And I don't want to say, and maybe this is where I may sound a little hypocritical here. I don't want to say I get stressed out before a flight. It's not, and maybe, well, let me explain it, and then you guys tell me if it's stress or not. But I don't stress out in the sense that I have to fly or that I'm nervous about planes or anything like that. I'm fine with flying. I've flown most of my life. My parents and I would travel a lot to go see, relatives and family members in the States and out of the country. So I have no issues there. But now as I've gotten older and I have more people in my care, I do get stressed out, or I do get, what's the word? Not overwhelmed. What's the word? I get in a mood. We'll start there, and you guys tell me if it's stressed out or not. There's a certain process I want us to follow to get to the airport and get through TSA. And if we have to, I guess before that, if we have to check in any luggage to the airline, do that. In this case, we did, which I hate doing. It's a side conversation.
Yeah.
There's a process I want us to follow so that we can all be on the same page, so that we can all get through it smoothly, and then we're fine. Because once I'm through TSA,
then it's relaxed.
My mood completely changes. And it's not, honestly, it's not even the fear of missing the flight. I think in our time together, we've only missed one flight, and that's because we overslept. It was an evening flight, but we were tired. We took a midday nap after going out for brunch, and I think we had maybe a few too many drinks, and passed out, and we missed our flight to go to Vegas to see one of my best friends. Yeah. So it was, not fun. But we got
a flight the next day.
We did get a flight the next day. We did get a flight the next day, so all was redeemed, and we still had a fun weekend. But we have TSA PreCheck. For those of you that don't know what TSA PreCheck is, hack. Okay, I'm telling you right now, it is a hack if you are a heavy flyer or a moderate flyer in terms of frequency. You have children, it's a hack as well. But don't quote me on this, but I think it's $90.
Yeah, I don't know.
For 3 years, 5 years?
5 years.
5 years, so it's for 5 years, and I think it's $90. And you go through, once you do your initial enrollment, then renewals is pretty easy because you just have to. Yeah, you just have to pay. But basically, what you do is you fill out an application online, and then you have to meet with a TSA agent. It's like a 15-minute max interview where they ask you a bunch of questions, and then they'll run you through a background check. They'll fingerprint you. They will take your picture. And then whatever they do, go through their databases. And then if you're cleared, they give you a TSA number. You put it in when you fly. And you know that special line for those of you who have, that are in bigger airports, that special line that is always super short or tends to be super short, where the normal line is, a lot longer. That's TSA PreCheck. And I think there's also Clear and Global Entry. I think there's a whole bunch of different programs, which, by the way, I did a little bit of research, and if we're going to continue flying international, not just to Mexico, but I want to go to, you and I want to go to Japan, we want to go visit other countries, Global Entry is the way to go, because from what I'm hearing, or what I was reading, is it's basically TSA for, the world, Global Entry. So I don't know exactly what the process is or what the cost is, but we'll have to look into that. But anyways, TSA PreCheck is a hack because when we don't, keyword, when we don't need to check in luggage into the airline, Lynn and I show up about 25 minutes before we board. We go through TSA, we get into our gate. We don't have to take off our shoes. We don't have to take off laptops. There's a lot of perks to it.
You can wear your sweaters. You don't have to take off really anything. And you just walk through. You don't have to stand and do the funny thing.
That's a lie. You don't have to do it most of the time because you go through the metal detector. But if they random select you or the thing keeps going off, they'll either warn you or you'll have to go through.
I never have bad luck like that, like you guys do.
There we go. Fair enough. I don't know what you're trying to say, so I'm going to ignore that. But I will say that TSA PreCheck is a hack, and we enjoy it. We love it. We love using it. We love the perks of it. It just doesn't work. It worked to get to Mexico. It doesn't work to get back, again, because it's not Global Entry. But that was my little sales pitch, I guess, if you will, for TSA PreCheck.
Good tip.
Good tip. There you go. Back to the original point is the flight there was a journey, but the flight back, I would say, was the most journey. Oh, actually, before I even get there, I didn't even finish making my point. So the process is, the process is I want us to not spend as much time at the airport, again, because we have TSA PreCheck, and this is where my side quest comes full circle and why I
Yeah.
brought it up. But I don't want us to spend that much time in the airport because I hate waiting. I really do. If I have to sit in an airport for more than an hour, it's annoying.
Patience isn't his
It's
biggest
not.
virtue. We both are not patient, so it's
In
a good
certain
struggle
aspects.
when we, it's different things.
In certain
but
aspects, we're
that's
not
what
patient.
we really always have to work on with each other.
Correct. So the process is I want us to get to the airport, if we're not checking in baggage again, but literally as close as we can. I mean, I've timed it perfectly where I'm coming through TSA, I go into the gate, and like 2 minutes later they're announcing, okay, start forming. We normally fly Southwest, so start forming Group A, then 1 through 50, and then we go to Group B, Group C. But so I usually time it to where we're right there. We don't have to spend as much time waiting around. So that's the process. And if anything diverts us from that process, if questions that don't need to be asked at that moment, Lynn, start getting asked, like, what are we doing here? Or can we do this? Can we do that? Or what are we going to do the next day? And have you thought about that? Things that can wait till we pass through TSA. I have a very, very short patience
Short
and
fuse.
very quick trigger fuse for those types of things at that point in time. But once we're through TSA, I'm a totally different person. I'm as happy as can be because I get excited about going to the trip. But it's just before. And it seems to get more... It seems to get shorter and I guess quicker fuse is the right word. The more people that are on our travel plans. In this case, we had a baby, so we had to plan for that. And like Lynn said, this was my first time navigating the airport with Rhaegar, which I've learned a lot. And now I know, we took the pros and cons and we know what we need to do moving forward.
He learned to listen to me in all aspects of a baby.
I learned to listen in terms of the baby, 100%. I will not deny that. But then my mom and sister, they met us there. They left a couple days before us. On the way back, my mom, my sister, Lynn and Rhaegar and I, we flew together.
Together, yeah.
And I'm not even going to get into the story of what happened to my mom. All I need to say is there's a reason we have a checklist of, hey, do you have this? Do you have that? Make sure you have this. Okay, there's a purpose for that. If you say you have it, make sure you have it. Don't say you have it and not have it. That's all I'm saying. I love you, Mom. So quickly triggered there. But it gets even worse because the trip back was a journey. It gets even worse. We go through, like I was going to say TSA, but it's not even TSA. We go through not even customs yet. We go through
TSA.
We go through their security.
It's like TSA.
It's like their TSA.
But
yeah.
Rhaegar, babies in a stroller is a hack because
we went through the
got
short
to
line.
go through like TSA pre-check in Mexico because we put him in a stroller, which was really nice, and that was shorter than most TSA pre-check lines.
Yes, and then for those of you who don't, or who have babies or haven't flown with a baby, I guess that would be if you have babies and haven't flown with a baby yet. What I learned, Lynn had to look this up or watched a video or knew about it, I don't know, but I learned this, is if you have a stroller, some airlines will charge you for a carry-on, some airlines it's included with your fare, but you can only get one, not carry-on, a personal item. And then carry-ons, I guess, same thing. But a stroller is exempt from that in a sense, where we had our personal items and we put Rhaegar in his stroller, and technically he had his personal items with his diaper bag. But they checked us in when we got to the gate. As we were boarding the plane, they checked in the stroller free of charge, and then we picked it up with the rest of the luggage. So that was a really nice hack to know that you can take your stroller and you don't have to pay for added baggage or an added fees for your trip.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
He loves his stroller, so
he does.
It made it a lot easier for us because carrying him all the time, which was part of like what's really exhausting on the plane, is having to hold him. Is a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
He's heavy.
He's getting heavy. So, where were we going? Oh, the trip back. So we got through security. We get to the gate all the way at the end of the airport
gate.
of that terminal, I guess. At the end of that terminal. Got to do a little bit of shopping before, which is always nice. A couple goodies for the way home. But then the fun part of the story begins. Okay. I'm going to try and tell this story without
getting angry,
without getting frustrated, and without upsetting Lynn, because I think Lynn was about this close from a meltdown, and I'll let her tell that side of it. I'm just going to explain what happened.
Almost tears.
I'm just going to explain what happened.
They didn't run down my face, but they were in my eyes. When you're like, go away, don't cry. That was me.
So, for those of you who travel a lot, a little, whatever frequency you travel, chances are that at some point in your traveling career, there's going to be a airport, airplane, even person, passenger issue.
Some delay.
Some sort of delay. In this case, we actually started boarding about 15 minutes early, which I was like, okay, we're getting home earlier, we're going to take off earlier, like I'm already in a happy mood. I'm like, let's do this. Or I should say, got in a happy mood after the whole thing with my mom.
Yeah.
But I was like, let's do this. We board. Everyone boards. They shut the door. It takes like a couple minutes to then pull from the terminal and then start headed towards the tarmac. So, that goes by. We start pulling back and then we start headed towards the tarmac and then we're just there. And that typically happens too. They gotta wait for that plane you're on to get clearance to take off. So we're sitting there. It's been 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then I go, well, we're taking an awful long time. In my head, I didn't say this out loud. Because I'll be honest, and this is where Lynn's probably going to stop me and where the tears came out the first time almost.
There's a lot of instances.
Rhaegar fell asleep on my shoulder as we were boarding. And the way we sat was it's 3 seats per row and then the middle aisle or the middle walkway and then the 3 other seats. So it was my sister, my mom, Lynn, the walkway, and myself. So that's how we sat together. So I had Rhaegar sleeping on me. I sit down. He is fine, sleeping through it. 10 minutes later, and this is where I'm learning as a parent, I will say. He just looked like he was uncomfortable. So I was like, well, I want my baby to be comfortable. So I slowly slide him from my shoulder, and I'm probably getting looks from moms who know what is about to happen, and shaking their head at me right now. But I slowly slide his shoulder, right, like this, and he falls, his head falls right on this elbow, or not elbow, on this arm. And I kind of have him like sitting up like this, and then I have his head right here laying on my chest. He didn't wake up, and I was like, cool, we're good. And Lynn, you could just see she's like, and she's just watching, and I'm like, no, we're good, we're good.
He was so tired and grumpy, so he needed to sleep.
So I'm like, okay, we're good. And gentlemen, okay, communication, I'm gonna bite myself in the butt many times through this journey, through this podcast, and here's an example. I like to tease Lynn in a playful and fun way at times. Sometimes I
can overdo it.
And this is one of those where I think I was being lightful and playful, but I wasn't reading her body language and she took it the wrong way. So right before we boarded, as he fell asleep on my arms, I said, I bet you I'll keep him asleep on my arms for an hour and a half, if not more, because he only lasted an hour with you and we're going to have an easy flight. Straight cockiness, straight up, right there.
And that bothered me immediately. So I'm boarding the plane with an attitude.
So I slide him over. He's on my chest. We're good. And here is where my hat, virtual hat, imaginary hat, is off to you moms. 100% respect. Because you endure pain and uncomfortableness to make sure your baby gets the sleep he needs or she needs, or whatever you're doing. Make sure that they're comfortable. You go above and beyond. Because I started getting this weird tingle right here in my back and my arm, and I was like, I'm trying to find ways to get comfortable with him. I'm sliding down, and I'm sliding sideways, and mind you, as I'm doing this, I'm obviously moving my body and moving him, and Lynn the entire time's and so I just slowly look at her, side glance, and I just continue doing my thing just super slowly. People are boarding, and it's noise going around, and he's still staying asleep.
On the plane very long.
So I'm like, okay, well, you know what? People are talking, like he's fine, and if he can sleep through this, he's fine. Like I just slowly start moving him. So then I finally get comfortable for about 2 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I just lay him like completely down, and I'm like, but no, then his legs are gonna be, kind of off in the aisle, and people are still walking by. They're gonna hit him. I don't want him to get hurt or wake up. So then I was like, okay, well, let me scoot more this way, and so I like slide this way a little bit. And as I slide him there to try and like get more comfortable myself, he just goes. And I look down at him, and he's looking at me, and he immediately starts lifting up, starts sitting up, and he looks at Lynn, and I look at Lynn, and I just see Lynn's face just turn red and just stare me down, and I was like,
I didn't say anything to him though in that moment. I waited until he was passed off to his mom, because another incident came immediately after that.
We're
I didn't say. I just want to make a point. I held it in instead of yelling at him in front of everyone boarding, because we were on the plane, you guys, 10 minutes maybe.
And he'd probably been asleep for like. In my mind, 15. I think he'd been asleep for 45 minutes, but Lynn said he'd been asleep for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, he fell asleep while we were in line to board. So I was just, when he woke up, and he hadn't slept for hours because of just the journey to get there. Yeah. And we woke him up, it was so early in the morning. We woke him up early because
we had an early flight.
We woke him up, and we woke him up to get pictures before then, so we had like 3 hours of sleep. Yeah. It was bad. So when I saw that, you guys, it was like, I was so furious. Like, what are you doing when you hold a baby? You don't move. Like, you just deal with the pain and discomfort, and you don't move. Like, I was just shocked that how much he moved. You guys, it was like...
And then...
What?
To make it worse, again, gentlemen, it's not that I didn't own my error in the moment. It's that I didn't... Okay, it was. I owned it a couple minutes later. But I don't even know what I'm trying to relate it to here, but maybe this helps for imagery. You have a toy, someone lets you borrow it, you like break it or something happens to it, it's not working anymore, and then you're just like, here you go. And so as he woke up, Rhaegar is in the phase right now where it's mommy. Like, he just wants mommy. He sees me, he gets excited, he'll come to me for a little bit, but if Lynn leaves the room or starts walking away, he starts, and so then, he just wants mommy. So then he looks at her, he's still tired. You can see like his eyes are a little red still, or around his eyes are a little red, and just starts crying. And so I just like look at Lynn and I'm like, here you go. And I think that pissed her off even more because her face went from like a light red, like a light tomato red, to a sun-dried tomato dark red. And that's when I knew I messed up.
Well, and then he was like, he was going to wake up soon anyway.
I did make that comment as I passed him on. And I was like, well, he was going to wake up soon anyways. I mean, people were walking by. And then I said, this was the other thing I said. I'm like, the announcer would, like, 2 minutes later, went and said something, and it was really loud. Like, that would have woken him up. And then the baby started crying behind us, and I was like, yeah, that girl probably would have woken him up, too. And I was 0 for 3 at that moment in my life.
And so I'm taking a crying baby and trying to get him to sleep. And before that, was that when the next thing happened? It was pretty darn close.
That's where, we finished boarding, so I got a little ahead of myself before I was telling that part. Yeah. But we're on the tarmac where I left, to circle back. We're on the tarmac for about 10 minutes, waiting to take off. And then the pilot, no, it wasn't the pilot at that time, it was the flight attendant. Yeah. Gets on and says, hey, we're having issues with the radar and the plane. Because it's a long flight, we do need the radar, so we have to go back to the... No, they didn't. They did.
We just sat there.
No. They did. They said that they're having issues and we have to go back to the terminal. Yeah. And they need to have the techs check it out. There. So then we're like, okay, everyone, you can hear the grumblings behind us. Lynn's already pissed at me. I'm already like, I don't know what's happening anymore. And so I was like, okay, God, everything's in your hands. Whatever happens. We go from there. So we go back. 5 minutes later, the captain comes out of the cockpit and she gives us the announcement. I did appreciate that. I do appreciate when the leader of something, you know, a team, a building, a plane, a ship, whatever, the leader of something gives the announcement and takes the ownership of what's going on and gives the plan of action. I 100% respect that, and I really appreciated that from her. So she came out of the cockpit.
But she lied and said 20 minutes.
Okay, she did lie, but we'll talk about that. She tells us, hey, you know, I'm Captain so-and-so, I'm so-and-so, I'm your captain for today. Here's the issues that we're facing. The radar is broken, it's not working, it failed its inspection. We need to have the radar because of how long the flight is, and then she goes into other explanations. It's for safety reasons. We have to make sure that it's all working. The good thing is, and this is where Lynn was saying, she's like, the good thing is we have a spare on stock, in hand. So they're already swapping it right now. We should be out of here in about 20, 30 minutes. If it does not happen in that time frame, or if they can't fix it after that, she didn't say if it doesn't happen in that time frame. She said if that still doesn't work after that, we'll most likely have to get off this plane, get on a new one, and go from there. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, okay, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, worst case scenario, we'll go from there. We were supposed to leave at 7:30. Okay. I don't know when this announcement took place, but we didn't get out of the plane, so that gives you already what happened. We didn't get out of the plane to go to the next plane until it was like 10:45.
Yeah, so we would have been
We would have. Well, no, we weren't. We wouldn't have been home yet. We still had to go. It would have been 11 because we were supposed to land at 11:45 Mexico time, and you know we lose an hour here, so it would have been 10:30 around
we'd
the time.
Be an hour away.
So we'd be an hour away from home. But again, here are the facts, I guess. Baby hasn't slept. Baby slept for 20 minutes. Was fussy. Lynn was able to put him down for a nap. I forgot to say that while we're sitting there. And he took a good nap. He took like an hour and a half nap. But the caveat to that is we hadn't moved. So it was good for him, but in vain for us.
Yeah. And so he didn't go to sleep right away though.
No, he didn't. It wasn't right away. But
he was
slept.
Crying a lot. And I don't know if you remember this
part. The flight attendant, yes.
No, the item in the backpack.
Oh.
So when he handed me Rhaegar, I was like, okay, let's try to get Rhaegar to sleep. Crying. Not stopping. Heavy. Remember I said he's heavy. We're sitting there for like, what, 3 hours?
Almost 3 hours.
Through this whole time. So I'm like, oh, let me look in the backpack. I have this thing that hooks around the tray table and the seat. And so it's like, extends the seat basically, and it's for kids to put their legs straight out, but with Rhaegar he could just sit on it and relax and not be held because he hates being held, and we didn't have an open seat like we did on the flight there. I had packed everything in the bag. I prepared his carry-on. I had the backpack already, but Alex likes to do things last minute. Packed like right before we left that night and had thrown some things about and went through the backpack even though I had it all ready to go and took that out.
I thought it was another diaper pad or the changing pad, thank you. And I didn't bother to look in the bag. I didn't bother to read the bag. I just like, oh, this looks like a changing pad, and I just took it out and I threw it in the main the check-in bag.
Yeah. So even though that wasn't like a necessary item, it's more of a privileged item that I got. In that moment, it was an item that I was needing desperately, and it wasn't in there. So when I was looking through, and you know I'm already angry. I'm not saying anything that I'm angry though.
You didn't.
I didn't like yell.
I could tell, but she didn't say anything.
Yeah. And I was looking through the bag and couldn't find it. And I looked at him and was like, did you take this out of the bag?
I was like, no, I took out a changing pad. She's like, it was in a bag. And I said, oh, yeah, I thought it was a changing pad.
We've only ever had one changing pad. Where is the second one coming from? And that's when I was so close to tears. I was just sitting there. I gave Rhaegar to his mom. I was so grateful to have her there. Because I just sat there in the seat and was just like, I can't believe he took this out. And then woke him up. and then said those comments. And I was trying, you guys, I'm just sitting there praying to God, please help me watch my tongue. You know, that's always a lot in Proverbs, Titus.
Yeah.
There's a lot of verses about holding our tongue. And I was just praying for that so much. And I gently was saying, why did you go through the bag?
She was very nice about it. I probably deserve the angry, the screaming, the scene, even though I'm not a person for scenes. Lynn knows this. I'm not a person for scenes. She could have done that. It would have been justified. Maybe not in that moment because I probably would have gotten upset. But given time, I would have recognized my errors, which I did. In the plane.
That's why I didn't say anything.
But she had every right to feel the way she felt towards me, and I wasn't helping either because this also happened, and I don't know if you were going to get to this, but I want to bring it up because while we were waiting to figure out if the new radar was gonna work or if we were gonna get on a new plane, you had asked me like, okay, well, if we do get off of a plane, I'm starving and I feel like I have a headache, I feel like I'm lightheaded, and this all probably has to do with the emotion roller coaster she had.
And just because I'm nursing, I'm always starving.
And she's like, and corrected, but then she's like, can we get something if we get off and have to go to a new gate? And I said, in a tone, I think it was like a slight tone, I said, let's just wait to figure out what's going to happen. Like, I wasn't even open to the thought. I wasn't even acknowledging what she needed. I wasn't even acknowledging her feelings and what she was feeling at that time. I was just, again, being selfish and just focused on myself, saying, hey, let's figure out this first.
Kind of like his system of getting through the airport.
Don't ask me those questions right now.
Yeah, he wasn't in the mood for, I'm starving, what food are you going to get me?
Correct.
While we were sitting on a plane for 3 hours, not moving.
Yeah, so then Rhaegar's asleep. He does fall asleep.
Yeah, I did finally get him asleep. I did have to nurse him, though, to get him to sleep, but he did it. Which nursing on a plane is really hard.
That was hard. I also think it was the way you were, like the seat you were in. Like, I was trying to get you in the middle to switch with my mom because I think it would have been better for you. Yeah. But I think you wanted you're also someone who doesn't like to be claustrophobic, and I think you would have felt, it probably wouldn't have helped your situation.
I would have had them just on me, and I would have gotten overwhelmed again.
So it is what it is. It worked out the way it needed to. Anyways, Rhaegar goes to bed. Lynn puts him to bed. I apologize. I recognize my errors and my mistakes. And then at that point, for me, it was just trying to figure out how to make her journey and our journey home better. Not in a sense of, yes, to, I guess, fix my wrongs, but really it came from an empathetic place. I wanted to make sure that I was being supported or supportful to her, and understanding that I'm not the expert in the situation and that she needs to take control and she needs to take the lead for Rhaegar and what he needs, and then I just need to be able to read her body language, read her thoughts, read her emotions, like sense that energy, and then just help her out.
Which he's really good at.
Thank you. So then we get on the new plane.
Oh my gosh, but just like getting onto the new plane, I just learned that people are people.
People are so
sitting on the ground with a sleeping baby in the sun, and to get on the plane, everyone just rushed on the plane. Alex is having to try to help me up with luggage.
So I'll pause you there because I saw it. That's one thing I'm good at, I would say, is that sometimes if I'm being aware, if I'm intentionally, studying the situation, studying the room, I can anticipate things. I like to say I'm a defensive driver, I guess is the term. I'm very aware of like who's
offensive.
No, not
defensive.
offensive.
Is going at him, right? So offense, you're like.
I don't know which one is which. Basically, is I read the, I look at the body language or I guess the car language. I don't know. Yeah. I can't speak. I look at the environment. Yeah. I read the scene of how cars are driving. If there's people who are just trying to go in and out, and I'm not perfect. There's moments where I just want to get home after work, and I may not be the best courteous driver, but for the most part, I want to be an aware driver. I guess that's the best way of saying it. Anyways, I start hearing them, right? There's the flight attendants and the mechanics are speaking against or amongst each other. And I saw one of them kind of give the thumbs up. Well, Lynn was tired of, she's holding Rhaegar, but she was tired of standing, so she sits down next to the luggage. At first, she tried to sit on the bag. She sat there for about 2 minutes. It wasn't comfortable, so she sat on the ground. Again, I'm still in that state of, I'm in TSA mode. I just want to get in and out. So I was getting frustrated that she was just sitting down again. And so then I said, as I hear them speaking, I look at her. I'm like, hey, you need to get up because they're about to let us in and people are about to trample you. And she actually, before I said that, I said the first part. I didn't say the trample part. And she just looks at me and kind of ignores me. And I just got like quick fuse. And I said, get up or you're about to get trampled. And I'm not waiting for you.
I got up.
And she got up. And as soon as she got up, like, I kid you not, as soon as she got up, they're like, all right, you guys can start boarding. And I was like, whew. And so, we start making our way in.
He goes first.
I go first, but let me tell you why. And maybe it's justified, maybe it's not. But I went first because on our first plane, my sister had a check-in bag, and it was like 8-9 aisles behind us because where we were sitting was already full. What my mom had told me as we were transferring over is the people who were around us were all one family, and they all had check-in bags, and they were all, I think there was like 7 of them, in front of us, behind us. No, it was more.
Yeah,
it was like 9 of them. In front of us, behind us, like directly in front of us, directly behind us, and then there was a few rows back, and they were putting all of their luggage up front. And so I am of the mindset that I want to be the first one out of the plane so I can be the first one out of the airport and just get my life going. And so that was my thought process, was let me get in. I told my mom, like, hey, please take care of Lynn. Told my sister, please take care of Lynn and baby. Let me get in. Boom, it worked out. I was able to get in, and there was an empty cargo spot right above where they were sitting. So mission accomplished. But what Lynn was trying to say is, as we were going in, they bussed us in 3 different buses, I think. And we were part of the first bus to get to the new plane. We're already in line. Like, it's a weird line. There was no organization, but we're already in line. The people who came from the third bus just jumped the front of the line and were just like crowding all around the stairs to get up on the plane. So I'm already reading how people are going to be, and I told Lynn, like, you're about to get trampled. People are not going to care. So she got up, and as we start moving, it immediately, like, shove here, shove there, push here, push there. And I just look at Lynn, and Lynn's just like,
I have a sleeping 25-pound baby in the sun. And we were on the plane for so long, and everyone heard my baby crying. Like, I was standing in the aisle shaking him to sleep, like rocking him. Yeah. So everyone on the plane, and we were in the front, so I'm like a show for everyone, just in general. So they knew what I did to get him to sleep, and they are shoving me. There was one lovely woman who held her son back and said, let her go, she has a baby. Yeah. And let me go. But as I was going, another guy just cut up right in front of me, and the woman saw that his mom was with me, and she let her go too to help support me, because I'm walking up steep steps holding a baby, exhausted. She's holding me up so I don't fall backwards holding my baby. But it was just shocking. Like, anyone with children, if you don't get help, I'm sorry, because it's rough. I feel like you should be a priority. And it's not like that in life. Older people, disabled people, babies, priorities. Yeah, and this is where I like to say this at work, and I say this in life a lot. I don't even know if this quote makes sense, but follow me here. In times like these, no one's problem is bigger than mine. And what I mean by that is everyone is thinking of that. At this point, it's not just us who are suffering. I shouldn't say suffering, they did give us snacks, but it wasn't just us who were inconvenienced. That's the word. It wasn't just us who were inconvenienced of being in a plane that was delayed almost 3 hours. Yeah. Everyone's feeling it. Everyone has a connection flight where we're going, or they want to get home, whatever their situation is. I understand that at that time, no one's problem is bigger than my own. That's what everyone is saying. And so I had to kind of get back to a place of acknowledgement and humility that's probably what everyone is thinking. Because there were some people who were vocal about it. There was a couple of people who got around us and got up and they're like, what are we doing? When are we leaving? Why are we still here?
with a tone, with an attitude. And I felt for the flight attendants. Because what can you do? I mean, if you're not the expert, if you have no control over it, what can you do? Right?
They were giving everyone free snacks, even full cans of soda, though. They were so nice. And they were really positive the whole time, smiling and being really kind.
Yep, and they came over to check on Lynn. Hey, if you need to get up and walk your baby, feel free. You know, I was appreciative of their support of the situation. But, you know, in terms of the shoving, that's where I was getting at, is at that point, everyone was just frustrated. Yeah. We were out in the sun for a couple minutes as we were waiting to board the new plane. You know, tension's already risen. The heat is just going to amplify it. And if we're not communicating, and again, this isn't a shot at the airlines, this isn't a shot at really anyone. Again, there was just no organization. As they got us off the bus, they weren't like, okay, form a line here, form a line there. As they let us get on the plane, they're like, oh, if you're in rows of, I think it was 15 and the rest, board from the back of the plane, everyone else board from the front of the plane. Again, if they would have said that from the get-go, it would have just been a little bit more organized, and we would have been I think it would have been a much easier, smoother transition. Yeah. But anyways, it was a journey. It was a journey to get home. By the time we got on the new plane, again, Rhaegar was asleep. Rhaegar slept a little bit more through that plane exchange, and as we're sitting there, he did. But then, you know, finally we get to, I just realized, like, we've been probably talking 30, 40 minutes of just the beginning of the flight. We haven't even gotten to, like, the whole point of this episode. Yeah. So thank you for your patience. But we get to, you know, he's just, we're taking off, finally leave. Everyone's like, yay! And thankfully Rhaegar woke up a little bit. He cried a little bit. Lynn nursed him back to sleep. And then this is where the communication, I want to say, was important again. Because as soon as they started doing their in-flight service, I made sure to get Lynn and I a couple club sandwiches, and I got her a drink. She wasn't saying anything to me in terms of, hey, I need this at that time anymore. She was just focused on Rhaegar. But I was trying to read and help out as much as I could. So she went, okay, think of it, you know, we're sitting like this in the plane.
Oh, it's literally kind of like this.
Yeah. She's turned this way. Again, here's the aisle to my right. She turns completely over, back on the armrest, kind of like leaning back, trying to get comfortable as much as possible. To let him
have the whole place to lay out.
Correct. And so she's holding them there. I mean, in total, I think you held them there for about an hour.
Yeah, in that one position.
Yeah, in that one position, she had them there for an hour. And so we have a, you know, small inflatable pillow, and then, where was I going with this? I inflated it. I tried to put it on her back. I puffed it up too much, and it took me a little bit to realize, like, oh, just, you know, let some air out and then it'll fit. So then before I put the pillow on, I put like a sweater, took my sister's sweater, put it in, tried to get her as comfortable as I could. Then I switched it for the pillow once I figured it out. And I just tried my best to make her flight as comfortable as possible.
But he did it because I never asked him to do anything. But as he saw me move, he could probably see my back twitching, lightly moving. Yeah. But I'm not changing, obviously, my position at all. And he would just say, lean forward, do this, do that. And I'm just rotating throughout the process.
Yeah. And that's where, you know, I guess I'll say it this way. That's where took I guess the reins back and said, hey, let me serve you, let me lead you, let me help you out now. And just we worked through it together. As Rhaegar finally woke up, you know, he was in a way better mood, and he was playful. He played with me, he played with Lynn, played with my mom, played with my sister, was playing with the baby behind us. The rest of the flight till about, again, I'm going to start calling it the magical 30 minutes or the golden 30 minutes
like
before. Right before we land, he started getting fussy. Like, nothing was keeping him content. So we had to improvise, but he got through it. You know, we landed. He was happy. Once we got off of the plane, you can tell, like, all of us, not just us, like my family, but everyone on the plane was like, we made it!
Exhausted, yeah.
We did it!
They were ready to run off that plane, too. I almost got trampled getting off the plane. They were so ready to get off, but I get it. It was, in total, a 4-hour flight turned into 8 hours.
A 3 hour and 45 minute, 3 hour and a half flight, turned into, we'll just round up, it turned into a 6-hour flight, and that does not include us getting to the airport early because we had to check in luggage. and clearing customs once we landed. It was an eventful day, but the premise of that part, the goals, the takeaways from that part of the story is patience. I think patience is key. Communication.
And it's different kind of communication. You know, before we talked a lot about verbal communication. This was all body language communication, which is really important. You read my body language really well, and that was how you were like communicating and doing things with me.
Yep. And then for myself, for guys, I say maybe we struggle more with this than the ladies do, is acknowledging your mistakes and not trying to get defensive about it. If your spouse, your significant other calls you out, you know, whether with their eyesight, with their verbal, facial expressions, whatever, body language, not being offended and understanding that, okay, you took the law, or you lost, you failed, take the L. Let's move forward from it. Let's get better. Because we still have the flight to go through. We still want to make this a pleasant experience, not only for ourselves, but for our son, for our family. We want to make sure that we're on one accord. So I think it was a lot of lessons learned for both of us, and I appreciated the opportunity to learn those lessons. That's a weird way of saying it. I appreciated the lessons learned.
Yeah.
But I thank you for your patience too, because it was a lot of new stuff for me.
Well, I appreciate you acknowledging how much work kind of goes into, I guess I would say being a mom, but I know you know that. But the process of that is kind of, I guess, the sacrifices we do to make sure our baby's comfortable and happy. And, you know, we always make sure to try to get our husband happy and comfortable as well. So, like, the overall goal for me right then was to let Rhaegar rest, so I wasn't going to move as long as he was asleep. Yeah. And that's what you acknowledged, and through acknowledging that, were able to help me fix my back, move here, give me a sandwich, feed me. You guys, that sandwich was so good.
It was a decent sandwich, but to her eyes, it was heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Heaven in the clouds.
He saw my expression after I ate it. I was like, it just revitalized me.
I don't know if she was expecting like stale bread. Like, it was a good sandwich. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was fluffy. It had mayonnaise. It had avocado. It was a club sandwich.
Bacon,
it was good.
Tomato, lettuce. Yeah.
She took the first bite. I wish I could recreate the expression, but she took the first bite and she was like, and I was like, okay, yeah. So she, you know, I handed her half of it. She ate it, and then I gave her some soda. She drank that. She's good. I gave her the other half, and you can just, after she finished, she's just like, like, just pure happiness.
It was. I was so hungry, so tired. It just gave me that boost of energy to make it through the next 2 hours of the rest of the flight. Because they don't do the food service until kind of the middle of the flight.
It took a while. It took them like 30 to 40 minutes after we took off and we were in the air and we were at altitude to start the service. And I'm not going to lie, because I knew she wanted food, I was actually getting irritated at the flight attendants.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were just kind of, you know, chitter-chattering there and about amongst themselves.
Yeah,
actually, they filled up one cart because there was 2 carts, and they took that one all the way to the back. And so I was like, all right, cool, they're going to start the food service here shortly. No, you know, one of them like heats up her lunch and starts eating it and sits down. Another one's like doing their makeup. I'm not bagging on them at all, I promise.
I'm sure that's.
But I was just going back to my quote, no one's problem is bigger than my own. In that point in time, I'm like, my problem is my wife's hungry. Y'all are just bickering. Let's get it moving.
Yeah. I appreciate your annoyance. I didn't even know what was going on. I was trying to sleep halfway through there, and then I'd slightly move because, you know, you get that twinge in your back, and you're like, okay, let me try to adjust lightly here. So I felt people going past me to the bathroom, kind of in a dazed state. But when I got that sandwich, I was pretty wide awake after that. I wasn't even sleeping. Yeah. I didn't even sleep the rest of the flight. I just kind of held Rhaegar there in a different position at that point, and then he did finally kind of wake up and do the sitting up thing, and like, oh yeah, we're on a plane. Yeah. And then we had to entertain him, but it was a good learning experience for us both. I really tried to watch my tongue with yelling at you. I did have like some stern words. It's like, why did you do that? But I definitely feel badly for even having a tone for that.
Again, well deserved. So no harm, no foul here. But anyways, I do want to get into just your experience of this trip. The first trip was, I wish it was for better reasonings. We went to the funeral of one of my uncles that passed, a year and a half ago. May God, continue resting his soul. And this time we wanted Rhaegar to meet his great grandparents, from my mom's side. So this is a more pleasant, more cheerful, more exciting trip, and we stayed a little bit longer. Yeah, true. Yeah. But we stayed we stayed longer than the first trip. So I just want to hear from your perspective how it went, what your thoughts were, and then really I want us to be able to tie it to just communication and communication again, as we're learning, as we're knowing. Yeah. It could be many things, right? I want us to focus on communication. For sure, between languages, English to Spanish, and you going in and having that language barrier with my family. But I appreciate your effort and wanting to learn and wanting to speak Spanish and work, attempting it, not being shy about it. Anyways, I'll stop rambling. I want to hear your thoughts.
I really enjoyed it. I liked the ability just to practice a different language. I have taken 8 years of Spanish. Still can barely speak it. So being fully immersed in the language and having that be the only thing around me really helped. And your family's so nice and supportive. They're not mean to me about saying words wrong. They just try to understand. They look at me like, I don't know what you're saying in my Spanglish, but I try. And obviously I say random English words and they're like, I don't know what that is. But I was really working to practice. So I always start like, yo necesito practicar mi español as my first thing. Un poquito. When they ask me if I can speak it, I say un poquito. Yeah. But it was a really cool cultural experience because life there is so different.
It is.
Just in general of kind of the lifestyle. And what you do, it's very family oriented. Yep. You wake up late. I noticed a lot of people start work later.
Not if you're my grandparents.
No, they wake up early. But in terms of work and stuff, your cousins went to work later in the day. It's like they give you time to have breakfast with your family, and then they come home later in the evening because that's when everyone gathers to have dinner. And a lot of the times, family just stops by, open door policy, and you're always surrounded by family, which is really cool.
I will say, not saying that that's not what happens. I think it's very common in my family to just kind of drop in, but I think the X factor too is we were in town. Yeah. Right? They wanted to come over, they wanted to say hi, they wanted to meet the baby, so we had a lot of, people just popping up and showing up, and cool, but we loved it. We had one planned party on Sunday that we were there, and Lynn got to see a whole I was going to say a plethora. She got to see a small portion of my big family on my mom's side, and it was a lot of people at that house.
A lot.
But it was, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'm glad that it was a good time. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, well, because you wanted to talk kind of about the language. Yeah. And I feel that even though I couldn't really understand most of the time when they spoke really quickly all of the words they were saying, I think we just, especially women, we kind of understand each other. Like your grandma, your mom, your aunt, we all were able to connect with Rhaegar and as moms, and that was a really good bonding experience. Yeah. So we use body language and Spanish, English kind of combinations to communicate, actions too, which help the communication. Not once did I ever feel welcome. Not once did I ever really struggle with understanding, because combining all of those different forms of communication really helped me be able to figure out and solve, okay, this is what they're saying, even if they're speaking really fast. Honestly, the kids are harder to understand than the adults because they talk so quickly and it's high-pitched, whereas adults, they know I don't know what I'm hearing, so they talk a lot slower for me, whereas the kids, I'm just like, you have to say this again.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but it was a really good experience to practice my Spanish more. Yeah. You could tell Rhaegar was enjoying it because we want him to be fluent in Spanish. Yeah. So I think his first word will probably be a Spanish word.
He's already, I'll give it to him. He's saying dad in Spanish. He goes, ba, 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 ba. He says it constantly.
Or potato.
Or he could be calling us a potato or calling himself a potato. Papa. Yeah, that too. But, I definitely, I think I've shared this before, but I want to make sure that Rhaegar is bilingual. Mm-hmm. That's something that's very important for both of us.
Yeah.
So I'm getting better about it now that he's definitely absorbing things more. When he was younger, I spoke primarily in English just because so Lynn and I could communicate. But now that he's absorbing a lot more, that he's trying to speak more, that he's emulating a lot mm-hmm. more, following, what we do, I'm definitely going to start speaking way more in Spanish to him. And I know the schools of thought out there and the research behind it. I probably should have been doing it from the get-go. And I did, little bits in here, but especially when I play, Spanish music when I'm cleaning the house or helping out or doing chores or whatever. Mm-hmm. But not as consistently as he's had it for this week, or not mm-hmm. as consistently as I want to do it now. So that's a big point.
Well, and one thing, though, because he gets it from your parents when they watch him, and I only have Spanish children's books in there, so he only sees Spanish, which is going to be really important to be able to read it and eventually write it. And then I can speak Spanish. I know what I'm saying. I'm not good with the verb conjugations. Honestly, that's the worst is future past tense. I always forget those ones. Yeah. But he hears it from me. Actually, it was so weird coming back and hearing English. Just after 7 days, you would think like, oh, it's just a week, it's not a big deal, but I had to remember how to say the word uncle and aunt. I even just now I almost said tia. If I were to live in Mexico for a month, I think I'd be pretty fluent because you pick it up really quickly, especially if you've had school and you know the vocabulary. Mm-hmm. You just need to hear it and practice it.
I would say that it's one of those where if you're immersed in it, it's kind of a fight or flight moment. Mm-hmm. You have to learn it to survival. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So the more what was I trying to say with this? If you don't use it, mm-hmm. you'll lose it. Yeah. Because I had the same effects as you did, reversed. When I moved for one of my jobs, a few years mm-hmm. ago, when I was working for the Department of Wildlife, that was a time in my life where I wasn't. I'm a little ashamed, and I hate to say it this way, but that was a time where I wasn't communicating with my parents as much. Mm-hmm. I think we all go through this phase as you grow up. You would rather talk to your friends, or you'd rather talk mm-hmm. to your significant other, or you'd rather talk to other people other than your parents or other than your siblings. Maybe it's not like that for all of you. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's just some of us are far few in between, whatever. But I think it's a phase that we can all potentially go through. So at this time in my life, I was going through it. I wasn't talking to my parents on a daily routine like I do now. I wasn't contacting them or texting them or calling them, communicating with mm-hmm. them. And I remember when I called my mom one night, it'd probably been about 2-3 weeks since I called them. I'm trying to speak to her in Spanish, and I'm like, I was lost. I was struggling with finding the words and mm-hmm. finding words that I've spoken with my entire life, or to communicating with my mom. And that's when I realized that if you don't use it, you lose it, or you can lose it.
Even if you grow up with it.
Even if you grow up with it, yeah. So I think that I need to do a better job of leading us and our family where, one, I'm, helping Rhaegar be bilingual, helping our future mm-hmm. children be bilingual, but also helping you. Mm-hmm. Because you have told me that you want to learn. And it's, again, this is another embarrassing thing. My family, they know that we've been together for 11 and a half years. They saw her a year and a half, met her for the first time, and they're like, how come you haven't taught her Spanish? Or how come you haven't taught... And Lynn just said, I want to learn, but he doesn't speak to me. And, it's...
I try to say it jokingly.
It's many things. I'll be honest and transparent here. Hot communication. I'll be honest here, is a lot of it sometimes has to deal with shyness or my own insecurities. Mm-hmm. Is I feel like I'm not a good enough teacher to teach her Spanish. Because I can speak it, I can read it, I can semi-write it. I don't know where the accents go most of the time. I don't know what, I know we have for a question, we have the right way to do a question mark, and then we have an upside down question mark, and there's different marks.
Tilde.
Different.
That's why I'm here, though, because I can write it and read it. I just can't speak it.
She can do that. But I also, sometimes I do feel insecure about it because mm-hmm. my Spanish is, you can call it slang Spanish based on the region. It's not like your so European different. Spanish. It's not like your traditional school, proper schooling mm-hmm. Spanish. It's just dialect. It's a different dialect, so to say. So I get insecure about that too. So,
but I think that's a really good point because it's something you have to continue to practice.
Yeah.
But that's what we want to all do with any type of communication, is that it takes practice to get good at it. And just the language is a good example of that. But the hot communication, body language communication, all of that takes practice. I mean, you didn't know how to read my body language that well 5 years ago even. And now
I would piss it off more.
Yeah. Or just not understand what I'm needing in the moment.
Or just wouldn't acknowledge what I did wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. But just in general, though, now you know the second someone says something that bothers me, or I'm upset, or when I need to cry, or when I need space, and it all took practice over those many years.
Yeah.
So with the Spanish, we need practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And those are all really good points that you bring up. I appreciate you bringing that. I wanted to ask you, you brought up the different lifestyles, right, between United States, being in the United States, and in Mexico. What was one takeaway that you, I guess, gained or appreciated or saw differently, besides where I get my quirky stuff, like quirky habits from? Cultural habits from where it all originates from?
Yeah, here's one cute, quirky. Well, there's a bunch, but so I never wear shoes. I just don't. I'm Native American. I go barefoot. My parents raised me, you're wild, go out there and stuff. We're in Mexico in the spring. It's hot. It's like 87 degrees when we get there. And they have tile floors because, you want to keep it cooler. And I'm just walking barefoot out of the room. And I have Rhaegar, and he's just in a onesie. Sometimes he's just in a diaper because it's hot there, and he's used to really cold weather. And I have him sitting on the floor, and they're like, oh my gosh, he's going to be so cold. In Spanish, they're saying that to me. And they're like, are you freezing? And I'm just like, I am sweating to death. But they're like, you need shoes, you need chanclas. And I'm like, no, please, I don't want them. I'm hot. Let me be barefoot. It's like summer here. And that's just a thing, is they always wear shoes everywhere because they don't want their feet to be cold. And I'm like, please let my feet be cold.
The belief is, and I'm not a scientist. I don't know. This is just what was passed down to me. This is the information that was shared to me from my parents, from my grandparents, and beyond. You can get sick by walking around barefoot because if the floor is cold, your body's hot, it contradicts too fast, boom, you get sick. Like, that's literally what I was told my entire childhood growing up. That's why I need to wear shoes. It's hilarious because I followed that maybe as an infant, as a toddler, as a young kid. But as I got to my teenage years, like to this day, it still pisses my mom off that I walk around the house, just like Lynn, barefoot.
She's so mad at me.
And so I've never done it at my grandparents' house. So I've never pushed that boundary just because my grandma would always get mad at me. But in this trip, not that I went to go push boundaries, I just wasn't thinking.
Because it was normal, because
because I've been doing it for so long. And so I did it, and sure enough, first thing my grandma says, like, you're going to get sick. Put shoes on. And, again, in Spanish. And so I started laughing. I was like, no, I'm fine. And then it's like, ooh.
They didn't yell at me because I was a guest.
So that was good. Yeah. That was good.
But a takeaway of the lifestyles, I would say one big one is the concept of time. No one's looking at the clock. They don't have watches. I don't think I saw one person with a watch.
My grandpa wears a watch.
Walking around. Yes, but he's a respectable man, ready, like, having his watch and his nice shirts and slacks every day.
My cousin wears a watch, too. Yeah, he had an Apple Watch, too.
Oh, really? Well, okay, just the concept of time, though, is just, it's different there.
It is.
They're not...
You don't think about it as much.
Yeah, you're not rushing to get places. All your cousins are like, it's time to go, and everyone's like, oh, okay, now it's time to get ready. And then they're showering and getting ready. It's not I need to be on schedule, there's this meeting here, this here, gotta go to work here, dinner here. They kind of more go with the flow concept of life. You're never stressed of being late somewhere or getting somewhere. It seemed very laid back and more relaxed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I appreciate that. I think what I always try to differentiate or understand is if that's always like that, or if it's just because we're on vacation and we're not on anyone's time.
But I feel like even acknowledging those around us working and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think for us, we're on vacation, so we're not worried about necessarily a schedule. But I can say that in all my trips to go see my family, it's pretty much like that. Like, they will show up and where was I going with this? They'll show up, they'll stay, we'll stay super late. One night we were having dinner like at 8:30 p.m. and we just, my grandma just started cooking around 8. It was probably 9 when we started having dinner, actually. Anyways, but there is no like, hey, even if it was a working night, it wasn't like, hey, we need to go because of this or that or whatever. Like, they were just appreciative, being there, being present. And being in the moment and just being surrounded by family. My grandma's house has never been empty. Ever since, again, this could just be because we're vacationing or because we're there. People want, say hi and interact and stuff. But I can't remember one day where someone doesn't visit or someone doesn't come by or say hi, or we don't go outside, out and walk about the neighborhood to say hi to people that my mom knows that she grew up with, yada, yada, yada. So I agree with you there. Time is definitely different. And I appreciate you saying that, because that was, if you were going to ask me, hey, how do I normally say it? Oh, what was something that I took away from it? I appreciate you for asking.
I was going to.
Read her mind, see? It's time. So here's where I'm going to be, again, vulnerable and open. I try to live my life with very few regrets. I mean this. We actually were just having a conversation about this today. I try to live my life with very few regrets. One of the regrets I do have, and follow me here because I feel a certain way about regrets, and I'll get there here shortly. One of the regrets I do have is prioritizing things that are not as important as spending time or making the time to go see my family. My uncle, who passed a year and a half ago, is one of my favorite uncles. And before his passing, it had been 10 years since I'd been back, a decade since I'd visited. And I remember calling him or talking to him over the phone, when I'd be at my mom's house, or I was at my parents' house and my mom was calling, my grandparents, or calling him or calling her siblings, which that's her brother, right? I remember always talking to him and talking to my uncles and aunts and saying hi to everyone, but, always saying, hey, I'm excited, I'm going to go, I'm going to eventually go, like, I miss you guys, I want to go see you guys, it's been a while. And I would always say that, but I wouldn't go through with it. There was always something bigger to chase. I was always too busy with work. I was always too busy with school. I was always too busy prioritizing other trips or other people or other things versus making time for my family. And I think there is balance is a word that I struggle with lately, because I think that the word balance is a facade. That's a conversation relative for a different day, but it's the word that applies here. I think that there is a balance that you need to find in what your ambitions are, what your goals are, what your dreams are, and what the priorities are. I want to say you shouldn't sacrifice what's your important stuff, your important whys, your important people, whatever that is. Your values, that's the word I was looking for. You shouldn't sacrifice your core values for others or for other things, because eventually it could cost and it could lead to regret. I think is the best way of saying that. And what I'm trying to say is that it took a death in our family for me to finally say, okay, I'm making the time to go. And for one thing, for I can't even find the words here, but I'm glad it happened. Not that my uncle passed, but I'm glad that I made the time, because I was able to mend relationships with my family. for promises that I never kept. Promises that I said I would go and never went. And I told Lynn this last time, and it was such an emotional moment. If I get teary eyes, I apologize. But not one of my uncles or my aunts or my cousins, not this trip, but the first trip back a year and a half ago when I hadn't been there for a decade, not one of them made me feel bad about not being there, bad about not showing up, bad about not going sooner. All of them were and Lynn got to experience this. She can tell me if I'm lying or not. But all of them were genuinely happy that I was there. Genuinely happy that she was there. Genuinely happy that even given the circumstances of why we were there, they were extremely happy that I was there, and they were just super happy to see me and see us. And I was able to mend those relationships. I was able to right some of the wrongs, if you will. And like I tell them, I'm telling you guys, I may not be able to change the past. The past is gone. The damage is done. But I can focus on the present and have a better handle and an eye on the future. And we wanted to go last year to see our family, or see it is our family. But we couldn't go because Lynn was pregnant. And when I wanted to go, Rhaegar was just born. We wanted to go for the holidays at the end of the year, but my grandma yelled at me. She's like, "Baby's too small to fly this far. No, wait till he's 6 months." So we waited until basically Easter, and so it was a blessing to be able to spend Easter with my family there, to take Rhaegar there. It was just an incredible journey overall. But my biggest takeaway, my biggest point that I want to make for this particular episode is time waits for no one. Time waits for no one. And you need to be a good steward of your time and aim to live life chasing the things that you want to chase, yes. Building the things that you want to build, yes. But also understanding that you need to have those, I'm at a loss for words here, but you need to find the balance, again, I'll say, with what's important to you. And what's important to you is going to be different for everyone. I will admit that. For me, family is super important. For me, spending time with my family, being around my family, surrounded by my family, that's important to me. And I did not make that a priority for a decade. I chose other things over that. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to compromise my core values. I don't want to compromise the things that are important to me for whatever, for X, for Y, for Z. I want to be able to chase, and do the things that I want to do, build the things that I want to build, but also prioritizing and making the time to even just call, right? To even just call and say hi and check in and have a quick 15, 20, 30-minute conversation, because life's too short. Life's too short to live with regrets, and life's too short to not tell the people that you love them. Life's too short to not make the time for the ones that you love, because at the end of the day, you never know when it's going to happen. You never know when the conversation that you have with someone is the last conversation you have with them. And I'll leave it there.
Well, I experienced the same thing, actually, on this trip. So, 3 days into our trip, I get a call that my uncle had passed away. Only he's in the States and I'm in Mexico. So, this idea of time and appreciating that time with those around you has always been very apparent in both of our lives.
Yeah.
And it's something that we continue to keep at the forefront, and that we always work to acknowledge. Even you making cookies with your grandma on this trip in Mexico. We learned to make her cookies because, you don't know. Not many people know that recipe. It's a very secret family recipe. Some people do, yeah. Her children know it.
Yeah.
But you just don't know. And I didn't want Alex to miss out on an opportunity to bake cookies with his grandma, because what if we don't make it there in the next year? Things happen, things change, things come up. So you just want to enjoy those moments while you can and have those experiences when you can, because I don't have any more grandparents alive due to circumstances coming up, and it happens, and you want to make sure that those memories you have with them are good memories where you were actually present and not just sitting there ignoring them, scrolling on your phone, not really acknowledging what you have there in the moment.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, let me clarify with that too, because you made a really good point, is I understand everyone's circumstances are different, right? You may not be able, if your family is out of town, you may not be able to see them yearly. And there are times that something may come up and we may not be able to go. But that doesn't mean that we can't communicate. That doesn't mean that I can't prioritize calling them or sending a letter or sending an email. Oh, there's many ways. But the overall, the main point I'm trying to make is, at least for me, spending time communicating with my family, being with my family, all that is important to me. My family is just important to me. So I need to prioritize making those connections, keeping those connections. Because what I told Lynn on this last trip, not the one that we just had, but the one before, if I wouldn't have mended those relationships when I did, and God forbid something happened to my grandparents, God forbid something happened to my mom, I would probably feel like I would have no reason to go. Like, to be honest. And this isn't a shot to my family. I know some of you guys watch us and support us, and we love you for that. Los amamos. But it's just how I would feel, because I wouldn't have those connections, because those connections to me I thought were lost. I thought that they weren't there anymore. So I would feel like, well, what's the point of me going?
They wouldn't want you there.
They wouldn't want me there. And that's just in my own head. They never said that to me. It was just what I put in my own head, right? So I felt that way. And I told that to Lynn, I would be robbing our children. I'd be robbing myself of my heritage, of their heritage, if I don't continue those connections. Because I want them to be able to see, our family, meet our family there, and see where, I'm not, Lynn's on Ancestry.com. I'm not. But, like, she can trace her family history back to, like, the 1600s. I don't know. Like, I past my grandparents, I don't know. I asked my mom that question one time, like, how did we get, where did we migrate from? How did we get to Mexico? Like, blah, blah, like, her answer was, I don't know, ask your grandma. And then I asked my grandma, and she was like, I don't know, ask your great-grandma. At this time, she was alive. And I asked her, and she was like, I don't know. So I never got an answer.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's, prioritizing that time. And yes, you're busy. Yes, we have 24 hours in the day. Yes, there's a lot of things going on. I'm not discrediting that. I'm not diminishing that. I'm not minimizing that. What I am saying is that it is your obligation to make or find the time to the things that are important to you. Because if you don't, it's very unlikely that someone else is going to do it for you.
And you said there's 24 hours in the day. You can get a lot done in 24 hours.
If I'm on my routine, Lynn knows. Like, I need about 5-6 hours of sleep, and I'm good. I can't do it for a long period of time, sustaining it. But if I'm on my routine, which I've shared my routine with you guys, I get a lot done.
Even if you sleep the recommended 8 hours a day, you work 8 to 10 hours a day in a job, you have 6 to 8 hours of unaccounted time.
Yep.
Let's say 1 hour, most of us eat fast food, eat quick meals.
Yeah.
We'll put an hour of that away. You have 5 to 7 hours. What are you doing with those free hours when you're not working, when you're not sleeping, and when you're not cooking?
Yeah.
5 hours. That's a long time. It takes 15 minutes to have a quick phone call. It takes a half hour to write a letter.
And how do you what is it called? I think it's the book Atomic Habits. I think it's the book. But how do you stack? Like, how can you stack and leverage your time? My commute is about 45-50 minutes. What do I do in that time? I don't listen to music much anymore. I listen to podcasts, I listen to an audiobook, or I'm calling someone. And 9 times out of 10, on the way to work, I'm listening to the audiobook. On the way, because I'm leaving early, on the way home, I'm calling someone. Usually my dad, usually my mom, sometimes both if they're both home.
Me in the
my
middle.
grandparents, Lynn, friends, uncles, anyone who I haven't talked to, I will make the effort to call, because I'm already driving. What else am I going to do?
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to listen to the same song over and over again? No, I'm going to make the time and prioritize the time to get the things accomplish that I want to accomplish, the things that are important to me, right? So that's how I do it. That's one way. That's a hack. That's something that's a tip. So, but no, I overall, I'm just very appreciative. I'm very grateful of just the journey, of the trip, of these last 2 trips, but particularly this one. It was a blessing to, as you mentioned, learn the cookie recipe. If you've had my grandma's cookies, you know. That's all I need to say. You know.
They're so good.
Thank you for pushing me to make the cookies with her. She's a very prideful woman. She does not ask for help. She does not like asking for help. You just have to insert yourself at times. And Lynn's like, go insert yourself and help out. And so I was like, okay. So I went and we started. It's a process. I'm just gonna say that. I learned the hard way. It's a process. My wrist was hurting the next day, and we had to make another batch the next day. But I really thank you for that, because it's a memory that I will never forget, and it's a memory that I get to have, and that Rhaegar was there, you were there, you helped out, spending time with my grandparents, like it was just, I could go on and on about this over, for an extended amount of time, but I'm just really grateful, and I appreciate you being there, and I appreciate the push, and I appreciate the whole journey.
I'm glad. I really enjoyed it too. It was special to be able to learn that recipe, and my goal with that is I want to experience that and tell Rhaegar about it and continue to pass that on, because I think that's really important. Even though it's technically not my side of the family, I think it's important to pass those both sides traditions down. And a lot of kids nowadays, I know for some of my side, a lot of my family didn't learn my grandparents' recipes and stuff, but I do have quite a few of them, and the fact that those don't die with them is amazing. You just think one person can carry it on, and then the whole generation, like years from now, they'll be
legacy,
making those
dynasty.
recipes. What if Rhaegar has a daughter and she loves baking and can start a business with that cookie recipe? Like, you just don't know.
It's a Hallmark movie moment right there.
It's a Hallmark movie moment. But it's like, you don't know. You want to pass these things that our ancestors worked so hard to get to. Can you imagine making those years ago, like when she probably first learned as a child? It's a lot of work, and I think it honors them to pass that down, and that's giving you that time too, is you're appreciating that time you have now and giving it to those in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I will say she was super happy that we helped. She told me that after. She's like, I appreciate you, Ellen, helping, but for me personally, selfishly, the cookies we made taste so much better because we know the effort it takes now, and we understand the effort, and we got to live the effort and the process, and it just, not saying that my grandma's cookies are better than me. I'm not claiming that I'm better than her, but mine tasted divine.
Yeah,
chef's kiss.
You worked really hard on making those, you guys. That dough, hand kneading it. You can't use a mixer for those. No. Yeah, it was good. It was good. But anyways, this is the last thing I want to say is, while I was there, my family did ask, they supported our podcast. They thought it was a super cool idea. They really enjoyed it, and I just love my family. Again, los amo, gracias por todo, gracias por ayudarnos y estar con nosotros, y dejarnos verlos. Los amamos de todo corazón, y doy gracias a Dios por ustedes siempre, y pido por ustedes siempre. Basically what I said is I'm very grateful for my family. I appreciate them. I love them very much. I'm always thanking God for them. I'm always asking God to bless them and take care of them. And something that they asked when we were there is, how can they, some of them know a little bit of English, some of them not at all, don't know any of it, but they want to help, they want to support, they want to know what we're doing and be up to speed with the podcast. So I'm still playing with the idea. I don't know how this is going to work. You may see Lynn, and honestly, she has a shocked look on her face because I haven't shared this with her. You were all hearing this together at the same time. I want to do something where either A, we do like Spanish subtitles as we do these episodes, which could be a lot of work. I need to look into that, figure all that out, see how that works. Or B, or I guess there's a C too, but B is I do a short version of like the main points, what we talked about, the tips, the tricks by myself, and just do that in Spanish, and we post that, sometime in that week or during the week.
Or option C is
practice
Lynn
my
joins
Spanish.
with me, and we have again still a condensed version of the episode, but she practices her Spanish, and you get to see her practice it live. So if that's the option you want, make sure you leave a comment and let us know. But yeah, those are some of the options that just come off the top of my head right now that we could do. So stay tuned for more information on that. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with everyone, and hopefully that we can reach more people and help more people this way as well.
Yeah.
Cool. That yeah was a nervous yeah. Let me read the room for you. That was a 100% nervous yeah, because all she's hearing is yay, more work. Anyways, thank you for hanging out with us. We appreciate your time. We hope that you took some positive, takeaways. That's the word I was looking for. I can't even speak English. If you've ever seen the movie Jeremiah Johnson, this is the one thing that always came to my head when we came back. Phenomenal movie. Definitely recommend to watch it. It's an older movie.
One of our favorites.
But he's a mountain man. Short version of it. He's a mountain man, lives in the Rocky Mountains of Montana. And then there's a part in the movie towards, middle end of the movie. He's having a conversation with another English speaker, and he's just paused there and just like kind of dumbfounded look. And then he's like, the person he's talking to asks him like, do you understand what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, it's just it's been so long since I've had so much of the English language spoken to me. And I told Lynn, I was like, that's how we both feel.
Yeah, because he was only speaking to Native Americans throughout it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely recommend you guys watch it. I don't know who directed it. I don't know when it came out. Lynn and her dad, my in-law, showed me this movie a while ago. Love it.
It's an old movie, but it has Harrison Ford in it. Isn't he the main character?
I don't know.
Not Harrison Ford.
No, I don't think so.
What's his name? It's a famous dude. You guys would know.
Your dad definitely knows. You could ask him, but I'm bad at.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I might cut
movie.
that out.
No.
Harrison Ford. Isn't that who plays?
No.
Who is he? What does he play? Isn't he in?
That's
Star Wars?
yeah. That's Han Solo.
Just kidding.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it, so definitely recommend you guys to watch it. Again, it's an older movie. It's turned into a bit of a pre-hunting tradition for us. We'll watch it before our first big game hunt of the year. Since we didn't hunt the last 2 years, we haven't been able to watch it like that in the last 2 years, so I'm excited to get back to that this year. Which, speaking of, okay, this is the last thing. We're done. We're landing this plane. Okay. Hunting season. I've said this before. We're both big hunters. It is tag application time, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yes, I'm so ready. We're putting in for everything.
Yes, it's that time
Hopefully
of year.
get something.
It's like Christmas for hunters.
Yeah. It's
We're
so
excited.
exciting. You just wait for those emails to come in.
Yep.
We
So
have such an empty freezer.
yeah, we do. It's
There's
sad.
one backstrap left and some ducks.
Yeah. We need to fill that freezer back up. So if you're a hunter, good luck on tags this season. As Lynn likes to say, because of the what's it called, the Hunger Games, may the odds ever
be ever in your favor.
There you go. May the odds ever.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
There you go. She says it way better than I do. But again, appreciate you guys spending the time with us, and we hope that you took some great takeaways. Again, find us on Instagram, find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon as well. All the links are going to be in the bio and in the description. That's the word. Sorry. Still getting used to this. But other than that, appreciate your time. We hope you have a phenomenal week and hope you had a wonderful Easter. We forgot about that. Hopefully everyone had a happy Easter. But we appreciate you. We love you. And as I always say, shatter your limits and ascend. Let's go.
Bye, guys.